In this video, I take the Canon EOS R5 and the RF 100 to 500 out for its maiden voyage in my hands. And this is my first time ever shooting any Canon gear, so you might actually be new to my channel because of that. I like to actually go out and photograph birds. My favorite bird is the Osprey. They're pretty amazing. So in this video, I'm gonna take this camera out to some of my favorite places and see how it behaves and see what I think of it. One of the cool things I noticed about this lens and some other lenses on the market like this one, but this one specifically, the minimal focal distance of this lens is 90 centimeters or just under 3 feet. So that means you can get really close at 500 millimeters, and with a 45 megapixel sensor, you can really soak up some detail. So before we go off into the wild blue yonder, let's take it and see how it handles like something up close in good light, just to see what kind of detail you can get at an almost macro level.
This brilliantly colored sunflower makes for the perfect example for this type of test, and as you can plainly see, the Canon R5 and the 100 to 500 lens are both capable of capturing some incredible color, contrast, and details at close range in good light.
Let's take this combo out to one of my favorite locations on the east coast of Florida and see how it handles some fast-moving subjects.
The ocean at sunrise. Never the same experience twice, and always worth checking out. The early morning light hits the tops of the breaking waves, and the vibrant colors spring to life as they dance and radiate across the surface of the water. The sun filters through a large cloud bank on the horizon, and the end result is a dramatic sunrise filled with brilliant shades of gold, warm soothing oranges, and just a hint of yellow. A group of sanderlings forages in the painted sand as the waves slowly cover the color with sea foam. Let's see how the R5 handles some stationary birds like this beautiful great egret. This looks great with the soft pastel colors behind the bird. Let's zoom in a bit and see what kind of detail there is. That looks great. I see a lot of feather detail, and that's an excellent sign. And this little blue heron, who has obviously put its neck out for the shot, looks great too. Once again, there's a lot of feather detail here, but stationary birds aren't really a challenge for the camera's autofocus system. Let's find something that's moving. This cormorant who is looking for breakfast is a great start, and it isn't long until the seafaring bird plucks a good-sized fish from the rocky ocean floor, and because food isn't always easy to come by, another cormorant moves in for the steal. The altercation is very short-lived. I think it lasted all of 2 seconds, and the R5 performed well considering the tight quarters. And it performed very well with this Osprey flyby. Hopefully this bird sticks around and pulls a fish from the water. The R5 also did great with this black skimmer when it came whipping by me. I was able to get a couple of shots off when the bird flew by, and they look great too. Everything looks great so far with the R5, but let's see how it handles a bird coming right at the camera. This large brown pelican is the perfect subject, and it just so happens to be flying right at me. The first 4 frames look great, but then on the 5th frame, the camera started to back focus on the splash behind the bird. This is very common, and it happens with every camera that I've used. The important thing here is seeing how quickly the camera recovers. It looks like 4 frames in total were out of focus. The first and last of those 4 were just a little bit off. The 2 frames in the middle were fully out. And then the camera recovered by the 5th frame, and it managed to stay in focus throughout the rest of the burst, which was around 30 shots or so.
To be fair to the camera, I'm really new to it, so those out of focus shots could have really been something that I did wrong or a setting that I don't have just right. I doubt it though, because since I've taken those, I've actually been out with the camera quite a bit more, and it seems to struggle a little bit down at the water line with birds. It confuses the ripples of the water, and will often focus on there instead of the birds. Even with the eye autofocus, I've noticed it'll jump sometimes from the eye down to the water, especially if you're tracking something really fast down into the water. I need a little bit more time with it to try to figure out what's happening there. Maybe there's some settings that I can change that'll prevent that. But with 20 frames per second, missing 2 or 3 frames out of focus really isn't that big a deal, and it happens with pretty much every camera out there.
Back on the beach, and that beautiful early morning light is faded, and a turkey vulture just casually strolls through the warm sand. They're not uncommon here, but seeing one on the beach is a little unusual. There must be something dead on the beach, and then sadly, I see why this vulture is here. a dead croc has washed up on the beach. Of course, I'm joking here, and for those of you that don't get this joke, Croc is a brand of shoe like this one, and this shoe looks like it has seen better days. Back over the water, and the Osprey are starting to fly in searching for food. Perfect way to put the R5 to the test with some action. Let's see what they catch, and see if the R5 can catch them with their catch. That was pretty catchy. A few seconds later, and I see one of them rising out of the water like a phoenix from the ashes, and in its meaty talons, a big fat Atlantic manhaden. The Osprey secures its catch before casting a glance in my direction, and then it heads off into the sky. A little further out, and another Osprey has managed to catch a big fat mullet. This is a pretty heavy crop, and the 100 to 500 seems to be able to render some great detail in the clear high air. And even further out, and an Osprey comes crashing into the water talons first. One of the most exciting aspects to photographing Osprey at this location is the simple fact that you never know what they're going to pull out of the water. And this Osprey has managed to capture something truly unique. What looks like a giant reflective piece of plastic is a ribbon fish. This is only the fourth time I've seen them pull these wild-looking fish out of the water. To say I was excited when I saw this fish would be a massive understatement. I was standing there firing away, yelling, "Oh my God, it's a huge ribbon fish."
What an amazing spectacle of a catch, and the R5 didn't seem to have any problems at all with focus in that series. I was using the electronic shutter for that, and I did notice a little bit of what they would call rolling shutter artifacts when I was painting down really fast with the bird. The bird got stretched out a little odd in one frame, and that's common rolling shutter artifact when the sensor data isn't being offloaded fast enough. A mechanical shutter would have fixed that, and that's the only time I've seen that with this camera so far. So there is a little bit of a rolling shutter, but it really wasn't that bad. And there's one bird left, so let's head back over there and see if this bird can wrangle anything out of the water.
And it appears to be struggling on the surface of the water. This is always a good sign that the Osprey has managed to catch a huge fish. And as the struggle continues, we start to get a glimpse of the massive fish this Osprey has managed to wrangle from just below the surface of the water. It's hard to tell from seeing just the tail, but this looks like a huge mullet. Yes, that's exactly what it is, and it's massive. That fish might weigh more than the Osprey, and a fish of that size definitely won't go unnoticed. A couple of young brown pelicans have spotted the Osprey as it struggles to contain its prized catch. The Osprey tries to sink its talons in the fish's back so that it can pull the fish up in a more aerodynamic position, and as the Osprey struggles, the pelicans get even closer. The fish isn't giving up without a fight, and its constant movement is making things very difficult for the Osprey. The Osprey's grip is starting to slip. It barely has the fish in its talons. The fish continues to swing like a clock's pendulum, and with every second that goes by, those very hungry young brown pelicans are getting even closer. As the Osprey starts to bank to its right, it looks right at me as if to say, "Are you getting all of this?" I smile and continue to hold the shutter button down as the R5 silently captures the action at a blazing 20 frames per second without ever missing a single shot. The Osprey, still struggling to get that massive fish in both talons, somehow manages to outmaneuver the brown pelicans, and it takes its massive fish dinner to some faraway perch where it will enjoy its hard-earned meal.
Never a dull moment. I always enjoy chasing all of the birds around in that area, and the R5 is a great camera. The autofocus on it is just absolutely exceptional. It's brilliant in video and in stills. There are a few things about it that I don't like. I need to spend a little bit more time with it to make sure it's not user error on those things. And I did have the camera lock up on me quite a few times. I think about 5 times it is just frozen and I have to pop the battery out. And that's been a mixture of shooting video and stills. So I think it probably is a little buggy, might need a firmware update. And as of this video, this is updated to the latest firmware, which was I think version 1.1.1. So there's still something a little strange going on in there. That could also be a card error that makes it lock up. So there's so many things that you can troubleshoot. But overall, it's a fantastic camera and I'll be adding it to my bag. The lens, I'm not too fond of the lens. I think it's a little overpriced for what it is. I'm really used to seeing images with like the bigger prime lenses like this. And this is a little soft at times, especially on stuff that's further away. You know, the images get a little mushy when you try to crop in. There's just not as much detail as I'm used to seeing, but that's expected with a lens like this. I just think at $2,500, it's a little overpriced for what it is. But again, overall, it's a really good combo. The R5, definitely, I highly recommend it, and I can't wait to actually do a lot more with it. In fact, by the time you see this, I'll be probably on my way to Maryland to a place called Conowingo Dam. A lot of you might know about it. If you don't, it's a place where eagles come in the winter. So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take all my Sony gear, I'm gonna take, yeah, that's about it, the Sony and the Canon gear. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna shoot some eagles. Did you have a favorite moment in this? If you did, let me know in the comments below. Click the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that because I'm gonna have a lot more videos coming from the Canon and the Sony gear. And until next time, I'll see you later.